Hello again, everybody. Sorry it's been a while since I've posted a video, but I've been kind of busy. Not so much working on this project here, but been working on some other things. Kind of ran into a writer's block, or builder's block, I guess you call it. I'm trying to figure out how I was going to do these ailerons. But as you can see, I figured it out, and they turned out pretty well. But before we get to that, can anybody tell what's different? What's different around here? Is there something new? There is. So, I've had several Goldberg Extra 300s throughout the years. Lost a couple of them in accidents. My dad had a couple of them darn near 30 years ago. And the last one I had was just too nice of an airplane, and I didn't fly it enough, and it was just a shame that it sat. And I had a line of people wanting to buy it, so I decided to give it to somebody who would really treasure it and enjoy it. Even though I could probably get it back, but anyways. A couple weeks ago, I went to a friend of mine's house down in Indiana to pick up some items for my collection that he had got from pretty much an estate type deal. And I saw this airplane. Now, of course, it automatically triggered my interest because it's a Goldberg Extra, and I love Goldberg Extras. But this one looked way too familiar. I mean, the metallic green and Alf up in the cockpit. I'm looking at this airplane going, I've flown this airplane. In fact, I have broken this airplane. So I started telling him the story. Besides my dad's Goldberg Extra that I flew back in 1995 on an accident, he had something flew in his eye or something like that when he was flying. I was by no means ready to fly an Extra yet, but I had to take the transmitter. So that was my first time flying this type of airplane. But it wasn't until 1998, a guy in our local club named Jerome Roberts brought this airplane to the field and asked me if I wanted to fly it. I said, absolutely. So this was actually one of the first Goldberg Extras I ever flown. And as I'm telling my friend this story, you know, he's kind of saying, yeah, but I'm not sure. He was kind of skeptical whether or not this is actually the one I flew. And when I popped the canopy hatch off, it actually had the original builder's name in the fuselage. I went, yep, this is it. So it's kind of cool. This plane has some history with me, but don't know if I plan on doing anything with it anytime soon. But just glad to have it, and I just so happen to have a spot already for it. So, pretty cool. Anyways, back onto this monster. So I had to put it together and kind of put it in that fashion just so we can oogle at it for a while. Let me straighten it out. I'm probably going to knock a bunch of things around, but is what it is. Stand by. Okay, here we go. So the reason I kind of put this aside and decided to work on some other projects is I needed to think, what is the best way to do these ailerons? I kind of had a few ideas how I was going to do it, but just wasn't 100% sure. And the way it turned out, it was easier than I thought, but it was rather time consuming. Because each individual rib is a different height, a different length, and of course there's nothing on the plans like this. This is absolutely different than how the kit is supposed to be. You know, this is all me, even including the trailing edge of the wing. So I started out by making a template just slightly downsized in thickness to the trailing edge of the wing. And this is going to be the leading edge for the aileron, as you can see here. Now I did have to compensate the height because of the top and bottom sheeting on the wing, so I had to keep that in mind. And once I had that done, once again using this new leading edge for the aileron, I was able to use that measurement for the thickness and use the plans. And you can see here where I've marked the lines of where my new leading edge for the ailerons is going to be. It actually lined up with this pre-existing line perfect, and I had to draw a new line here. But like for this rib right here, all I had to do is measure from this line here to the trailing edge. That gave me my length. I already had my height based on the leading edge that I cut, then just had to cut a rib. So it unfortunately did mean I had to cut a lot of ribs, and each one was different, so it was one at a time. So that was kind of slow going, but it went together quite easy. This aileron I screwed up twice, but one of the screw ups actually made the second screw up better. Not sure how to word that, but either way, that one took some work to get it the way it needed to be. And this one just kind of fell into place. So, you know, you learn on one, you do better on the next. I thought about building a new aileron for that, but I think it'll be fine. I mean, if you can tell me what's wrong with it in the comment section, then I'll build another one. But I doubt you can tell what's wrong with it. Because honestly, it's very difficult to tell. So, let's see here. So, it's not, you really can't see it because the sheeting on the aileron covers it up, but my the leading edge is right up in here, which is what I use to make my measurements to get the height for each rib. But the actual permanent leading edge to the ailerons is triangle stock. So the leading edge that I built it to is about right here. So I built the aileron, sheeted it, capped it, and then I put the triangle stock on the top, which gives me my perfect bevel. Kind of cheating doing it that way, and it's not scale. But this is not a scale subject that I'm planning on competing with. And if I wanted to, in most levels of competition nowadays, you know, I mean, guys are flying foamies and, you know, Top Gun now, so yeah, that kind of irks me just a little bit. But anyways, this is a scale airplane, scale outline, and it will have a scale color scheme. So it can fly in the Pro-Am class or, you know, fun scale at the Nats, so forth. So it could be a scale competition airplane if I wanted it to be. It just would not be able to be staticked because the overall construction is very, very sport scale. So, let's see, what's next? So next, I need to figure out what I'm going to do for a control horn that's going to be permanently mounted in the aileron. I'm probably just going to cut something and notch the aileron right about here and slide it in there, make it permanent. And then up here in the wing bay area, I'll put rails in, put servo in, get all that set up. This wing has really been a challenge. As I'm sure you remember, and you can tell just by looking at it, that, you know, this is fresh, unmolested balsa right here, and this is kind of darker, kind of a little bit more yellow, because this has been coated with a very, very thin layer of epoxy resin because of how brittle this balsa is. And it did help. It did help a little bit, but unfortunately I keep breaking it. I keep putting holes in this stupid thing left and right. So I cannot wait until it gets covering on it and I'll stop putting holes in it, because it's getting kind of annoying. So I'm trying to decide, moving this thing around here, I'm trying to decide if I want to put the wings aside for now and get back to work on the fuselage. Before I can sheet the back end of the fuselage, I got to get all my wires put in, all my push rod wires put in, and get all that figured out before I sheet it. Because it's kind of the home stretch as far as getting it ready to be covered. The tail section is pretty much ready. The wings are very close. I still need to hinge everything. Nothing is hinged. And for those that are wondering, hey, look right there, I got a TV going. Who's gonna yell at me this time? Anybody? No? Okay. For hinges on this one, I'm using the Dubro heavy duty hinges, and these are the ones that you can take the cotter pin out of the middle of the hinge, which joins the two hinge halves together, like you see here, and you can separate them, which makes it kind of nice. Where normally I would use just a regular Dubro pin hinge. But that's what I'm going to be using this time. But I don't have a very good specific cutting tool for cutting the proper slots for these. Normally I just use an X-Acto knife and just kind of go to town and start hogging it out, but I actually purchased the proper tools to do the job. Let's see. Kind of cool. The box is getting kind of sparse. These are all the die cut pieces, but there's a lot less stuff in there. Oh, wait a minute. I think we're going to see a crash. Here says the Rolly DC3 getting ready to go in. Oh, that sucks. Looks like it had an engine failure after an overshoot. This is the 1989 King Orange qualifier in Florida. Scale Masters qualifier event. But I know nobody wanted to see that because everybody hates that TV. But I bet you're glad I showed you that. Sorry, my starting to kind of lose my voice a little bit. I must have COVID. Yeah, right. So once I get everything hinged, then I can go ahead and put the wingtips on. But I'm not going to do the wingtips until I have the ailerons hinged exactly where they're going to be, and I can temporarily secure them into place so they don't move. Then I'll do the wingtips. Because one of the benefits for this type of construction being open bay, and as well as the ailerons being open bay, once it's covered, if I do get a twist or any kind of irregularities, there you go, in either of these surfaces, I can actually jig the wing or jig the aileron and twist it to the shape I want and use a heat gun on the covering, and it'll hold it into that shape, and then eventually, over the course of probably 24 to 48 hours, the wood will permanently be in that shape. So that's what makes it kind of nice having an open structure like this. Not that I'm planning on building a twist into it, but it can happen. Still dreading the the infamous fuselage fillet. I'm really not looking forward to that procedure, but I kind of already have some ideas how I'm going to do it. Other than that, kind of the pace is kind of slowing down now. Unfortunately, the really quick and easy work on this airplane is done, which is the initial frame up and just kind of roughing things together. That's the quick part. Now it's getting into the tedious fitting parts, joining parts, and figuring out what to do with all the servos. That stuff takes time. And I've been asked if when I think this will be complete. Well, my goal is by spring. I mean, hopefully we're allowed to leave our houses in the spring, but I have a feeling we're all going to be pretty much prisoners But hopefully by spring it'll be ready to fly. My goal is by February 1st to have it ready for covering. And that's a very achievable goal. I don't see any reason why I won't be able to get it completed to that point by that time. But you never know. I have to be in the mood to build, and depending on how life goes and work goes, I'm just might not be in the mood. So, just wanted to show you that I'm still working on it, still plugging away. Everything is still going. And I'm really happy how these ailerons turned out. They're pretty solid, they're pretty stout. Very basic. A lot of work, but you know what? I got it the way I wanted it, and that's the important part. So, I'm going to get back to work. I think I'm pretty much done with this for the weekend. I got some other things to take care of, so that was my goal for this weekend, was to get the ailerons built, and they're built. So I'll probably stick this aside for now until I get my my hinging hardware in, and I can start getting some things hinged up. Alright, later.